Hey, everybody.
Hey everyone. I know we're a week late, but it's because we didn't know how Nicole was going to affect us down here in Florida. It turns out it was nothing to worry about, but we just had to make sure, so we canceled the show just in case.
Yeah, I mean, with the whole thing with Hurricane Ian and a lot of people going, there's a lot of in and out power still. We still have sketchy internet, and we weren't sure what was going to happen. So we delayed till this week. So, Rachel, what have you been up to?
Why you got to throw me under the bus like this? Nothing much, actually. Nothing in my normal everyday life, just preparing for this show. You?
Well, I've had a lot going on with work, and we finally might have somebody who's going to help out. And if that's the case, brain might say, hey, you can start writing again, because I haven't been able to write in 3 months. So fingers crossed, Barb will work out. And she's a really lovely lady. She started on Wednesday, and I am super excited to have her. So that's good news in my life right now. So we haven't really been doing much as far as going to the movies and not really watching TV shows too much right now.
We're kind of in a funk. It's the end of the year. We don't want to do anything anymore.
We've been doing video games and just chilling mostly.
Just chilling. But this show, we have something special planned. Earlier this year, we talked about movies that we liked, but were typically critically and by the audience received poorly. We're doing the opposite this time. We're talking about movies that we do not like, but have been received positively by both critics and audiences. And this is something that we were actually very controversial on doing. But because when we talk about stuff that people don't like, but we do, that's positivity, you know?
Right, exactly.
Some of our opinions here, we were worried might get us killed.
Or disliked. And, we have some controversial stuff. And some stuff we decided to leave off the list because we're like, nah, if they hear that, they'll never want to watch us again.
So this might be a shorter show. It depends on how much we actually have to talk about this and how much the audience inputs. But regardless, we are basically having it go down. We're going back and forth. We're having each of us have 3 movies that we want to discuss, and then 2 at the end where we both agree on the movies. The other movies that we are heavily controversial the most of the time, and we will be having arguments.
Yeah. So, and I'm sure you're looking forward to when we disagree, because that's when it gets kind of exciting.
So, speaking of disagree, I think this is a good transition into our first pick from you.
Yes.
That a movie that is critically and why isn't there a good word for audience? Like audiensely, critically and audiensely received? Okay. Received well by the critics and audience. Kill Bill Volume 2. Now, this is interesting because you are a mega fan of Kill Bill Volume 1. You have the soundtrack in your car.
Yes, I have a soundtrack in the car. I bought the CD a long time ago when the movie first came out. I fell in love with it. I used to watch it like almost once a week, Kill Bill Volume 1. And after it came out on video, I mean, there'd be nights, it was like right after Christopher was born, and I'd be up and he'd be fussy, and I'd just sit and watch that film. Sometimes there's certain scenes in that film that I'll just watch, like House of Blue Leaves, that section towards the end. And I love all the fighting towards the end with the Crazy 88. It's just incredible choreography, and Quentin Tarantino did such a bang up job on that film.
Why don't you go ahead and give the summary of Kill Bill Volume 1 first, because it's so heavily connected to Volume 2, and then go into Volume 2.
Well, you know what? You know why it's so heavily connected? While I was doing research on this, I found out that Kill Bill was supposed to be a 4-hour film. Both parts were supposed to be together. He filmed it all generally at the same time, and it was going to be released at the same time. But the studios were like, oh no, nobody's going to sit around for a 4-hour film. So what he ended up doing is having to make Volume 1 and Volume 2. And basically, the story is about an assassin called the Bride, who is basically on her wedding day. She is attacked by the other people in her group, and because she left Bill to marry somebody else, and Bill didn't like that. So he got the Vipers to go after them, and basically they killed her husband-to-be, the whole wedding party, and she was pregnant, and it's assumed also that the baby died because she was in a coma for a while, and she was expected to die as well, but she ends up coming out of her coma. And when she does, Elle, which is played by Daryl Hannah, who's been keeping an eye on her, it informs the rest of the gang that she has escaped and that she's on the trail for revenge. So basically, Kill Bill 1 is a revenge movie, and you see her at her lowest lows, and she has to try to teach herself how to walk again, basically. And then when she does, she starts her list. She has her list of names, and she starts crossing them off one by one. And it's a pretty powerful film. Great job by Uma Thurman.
Received critically, similar to Volume 2, received very well critically.
Yeah, it was just beloved.
And then Volume 2 came along, which I'm just going to spoil right now. I prefer Volume 2 to Volume 1, which is what makes this kind of so interesting, because I like them both, but I prefer Volume 2. She loves Volume 1, but does not like Volume 2.
I despise Volume 2.
Which I'm going to just put this up here just to maybe just rub it in a bit. Notice, what's the audience score for Volume 1, Mom?
81%.
And for Volume 2?
89%.
And this is why we're doing the show.
Yes.
Because she does not understand why.
So Volume 2, it came out 6 months later in the theaters. And I was highly disappointed because I was expecting to see the same kind of action, fast pace as in Volume 1. And basically we got a really slow burn of a film. And it was just so different. And not what I was expecting, and I ended up not liking it at all.
You know, the reasons that you mentioned there, it being slow burn and it being different from the first film, are the exact reasons why I love it so much. I think that Kill Bill Volume 2 is a great way to subvert audience expectations the correct way. In Game of Thrones, there was a lot of upheaval in the community about subverting expectations when they had Arya kill the Night King when it was basically flagged to be Jon Snow for the sole purpose of subverting expectations. The reason why I think it works in Volume 2 is because Volume 1 sets it up to be a straight revenge story. And Volume 2 plays into that. It plays into the audience's expectations at first, until she finds Bill. And then it becomes a more slow-paced, almost sort of sitcom-ish vibe. And it's just so different from what I was expecting, and actually had a purpose to it, unlike the Game of Thrones example where the whole purpose was to subvert expectations. Subverting expectations here is to sort of go against the revenge narrative that was set up in Volume 1 and basically say, no, that's not gonna happen. Bill's already sick, he's already dying, there's not gonna be any epic battle to the death. It was just super interesting to me, and the reasons why I like it so much, I'm pretty sure are the reasons you hate it.
Yeah, I think you're right. And the thing is that you had mentioned to me earlier that you feel like this was more of a character-driven story, and you're right. And I usually love character-driven stories, but in Kill Bill Volume 2, we end up seeing like her backstory, Beatrice's backstory, and it's just I mean, we've seen this all before. The person who goes to the mentor, and the mentor is like really tough, and she has to learn the hard way. And I just thought that Quentin Tarantino's should have been a little bit different than that, a little bit better, I guess. And even the scenes with Daryl Hannah and Elle in that fight, it seemed anticlimactic to me. So
I just
felt the whole film was anticlimactic.
I just find it really interesting how this film can evoke two separate reactions from us based on the same elements. Like, we can agree what the elements are. It's just our reaction to it is different, which I find very interesting. Speaking of that,
yes,
we move on to my first movie that I really do not enjoy, but a lot of people do. Titanic.
Titanic. Yes, that movie that made millions and millions of dollars and stayed number one at the theater and was there, and I saw it 4 times at the theater before she was born 3 years later.
So Titanic is both the audience score I find is actually a lot lower than I was expecting it to be for this movie, but I could not be more happy because this movie is a every romantic movie you've ever seen ever about a rich woman and a poor man just set upon the Titanic. There are literally no differences between you think about the story of how the rich girl gets with the poor down on his luck boy, and literally it's just that story,
like Romeo and Juliet,
but on
West Side Story,
but on the Titanic. And I think that really disappointed me because there's so much you can do with a story about the Titanic, and I really don't know why they went the romance route. I knew I was getting a romance. I was just expecting something maybe different, because at the beginning of the film there's like no surprises here. The beginning of the film basically tells you Jack's dead. Rose is there, she's searching for the Titanic, you can assume, and as soon as Jack's introduced, you're like, oh, he died. So this movie just was the biggest ball of nothing for me I think I've ever seen. It's shot gorgeously. There's that really famous scene.
It's beautiful.
That's beautiful. But I literally got nothing out of it other than a generic rom-com for me.
Rom-com? Everybody dies.
Rom-trad, I guess.
So I totally disagree with her on this film, okay? I feel like Titanic is one of the best movies ever made.
How?
You've got James Cameron. Okay.
Wait, that by the way is a spoiler. This is not the first time James Cameron showed up. I'm sorry, James Cameron. We don't. It's just your movies are divisive amongst us. But anyway, back to Titanic. One of the best films. I knew you liked this movie, but one of the best films ever made. Why?
Yeah.
Why?
You've got this great. Okay, the Titanic has been done time and time again in motion picture. I mean, it's sort of like one of those stories that they just take those elements and they put them into all kinds of different scenarios. And I think that that James Cameron does it the best. He's got this epic romance, and it's
romance,
and it's set and the whole first half of the movie is setting up this romance. He gets accused of theft. Yeah, maybe you've seen some of that before. But you've got Kate Winslet, who's just gorgeous, and she's just doing such a great job. And Leonardo DiCaprio, they have so much chemistry together. Mm-hmm. And then you get the last half of the film, you're on the edge of your seat. I remember being in the theater holding my breath for like lengths of time as the water's all crashing in, and you see all these horrible things happening, and there's nothing you can do, and you know how it's gonna end, but you don't want all these people to die. You're invested in them after watching them for almost 3 straight hours. And
yeah, that's another thing. 3 straight hours.
But I think another element of the film that I particularly liked, and what hadn't been done before.
Okay, we've talked about this a bit before, so go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Is how the movie bookends with them, the modern day of them looking for, going under the water and finding the Titanic, because that had not been done before, because the Titanic wasn't found for the longest time. And to see them going under the water and how they use those robots to move stuff around. And you've got this, other side story about how they're looking for that, I think it's the heart of the ocean, that pendant. And they're trying to make some money off of this
okay.
dive.
I'm going to be real with you for a second here. I don't understand this point. That material that you're talking about spans 10 minutes max of the movie.
I think it's more like, it's more like about 20, but
it's not a feature of the film, I would say. If the movie was about that, it'd be much more interesting to me. But it kind of just felt like, here at the beginning, we're going to go search for the Titanic. Romance stuff. We are searching for the Titanic. We have found the Titanic.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, in the beginning of the film, they're out there, looking for stuff.
I don't know, man. You said you saw this in theaters 4 times. Why?
Yes. Because it was huge. It was like things that people did together. It's like, oh, let's go watch the Titanic again, over the weekend. It was, our friends would go out and mass and watch this movie and just get so involved in it.
I'm going to be real. I don't think I'm going to ever understand your love for the Titanic. But the next thing that we are going to talk about, the next movie, is another one that's...
Oh, we're doing Men in Black first.
Oh, we're doing Men in Black. Spoilers. She wants to talk about how much she hates Men in Black, which I have not seen, so I can't weigh in on, but...
Oh, you know what? You were right. We were doing Up next, but that's okay.
Okay, but now we gotta talk about Men in Black, because you...
Okay, I'm sorry. Yes, so let's do Men in Black, okay? Men in Black was made in 1997, and it came out around the time that the X-Files was huge, and I was a huge fan of the X-Files. I was really into the whole alien mythos, and I wrote a book about aliens. So when Men in Black came out, I was thinking it was going to be a much more serious film. I was thinking it was going to be about how the Men in Black people try to prevent humans from finding out about aliens and trying to debunk the whole alien culture, which is kind of true, but the movie turned out to be a comedy. I thought with Tommy Lee Jones, it wasn't going to be, it's going to be more of a serious tone. So when I went to the theater, I was disappointed that it was just a flat out comedy with a couple of serious elements. Not that it's not really that serious. And you've got these goofy looking aliens. You got a dog that wears a suit. It's an alien.
I think that's actually kind of funny. But
I did not find it funny.
Well, a lot of people seem to. But
yeah, I know. It's a huge show, movie franchise. I'll tell you, I never watched a full other one of the films. I did. We've talked about the cartoon Men in Black on Saturday Morning Cartoons, which I actually did like that. I thought that was kind of neat. I don't know. I just think it comes across better as a cartoon, but
I can understand not liking a movie or taste for a movie being ruined because of what your prior expectations were going into it.
Yeah.
And that kind of sets up me and my next movie. So if you know me, I am a huge horror buff. I love horror films, and I have been a huge fan of the horror classics. I pretty much watched every single one of them. And the one that I think is just a tad bit overrated is Hellraiser. At least the first one. I'm going to make this quick because a lot of this comes down to me. And I have no real major complaints about this movie. It's more of a what I want versus what the movie gave me. I wanted to see these amazing Cenobite effects with Pinhead and all of those other ones. But we really only get to see them in the last few minutes of the movie, which was a huge disappointment to me. Because she's the face of the franchise. And the plot was revolved around a woman killing for her husband so he can regain his flesh. And that's fine, but I went in wanting Pinhead. So I don't know. There's nothing technically wrong with the movie. It's a good movie, but it's just not what I was expecting. And that's really all I have to say about it. Next movie for you is...
No. I have some things to say about Hellraiser.
You have not seen Hellraiser.
But I do have some things to say about Hellraiser.
Okay.
All right. Hellraiser is a Clive Barker film, and Clive Barker is a famous horror writer. The movie was based off a short story of his called The Hellbound Heart. This Hellraiser film was his directorial debut. Now, if you're familiar with the work of Clive Barker, he has, I think it's an acquired taste. He's got this really weird, twisted, dark, like sexual, dark fantasy style stories. And the first Hellraiser is really that. It's really these Xenobites.
No, they're not. They come in at the last few minutes of the movie.
But they don't know the difference between the pleasure, sexual pleasure, and sexual pain. So that's why they like rip people's souls apart. If I'm understanding it correctly.
Sure, Mom. I'm not going to go into that with you. You are my mom, but but I don't know. The whole reason that the movie, I like the movie, but I think it's overrated. Moving on to a movie that we have a lot of disagreements on.
Yes.
This is her, by the way. This is her opinion, not mine. Up.
Yes. About maybe a year and a half ago, I posted on my Facebook page that I dislike the movie Up.
And she wasn't expecting the
Oh, I got such a
negative.
Yeah, backlash on that whole thing.
Because I don't think she knew it was as popular as it was.
No, I knew it was popular. I mean, a lot of people, all they ever talk about is the first 10 minutes of this film, okay? And I think the whole, I mean, it says this, you have this beautiful story about this husband and wife, and then she dies, and it's just like so gut-wrenching. I mean, to watch, I mean, it's just gutting, okay? And then after that, you're like, and then you have this whole thing about him. He just wants to be left alone, and that's understandable. And he's like, isolated himself.
You're really sugarcoating your opinions on this now that we're here than when we were talking about this in private.
No, I don't like it. I don't like the movie. I thought the whole thing about the little boy befriending him, that's, it's a sweet thing, but I just found it like really boring.
I don't understand how you found this movie boring.
It kind of, I just, I don't like the Doug, the talking dog. I don't like the bird, Kevin. These characters just didn't do anything for me. They didn't do anything for me at all.
Well, first off, this is a child's movie. Those characters were there for the kids. Second off, the reason why this movie means so much to me is the whole found family angle between this man who's gone through so much loss in his life, finds this kid he's not even related to, and forms a bond with him. And it's a beautiful thing to watch throughout the whole movie. And even if you don't like Doug or Kevin, there's a reason they're there. They weren't just included there for no reason. Doug is there because he belongs to the main antagonist, and Kevin is there because he is basically the goal of our main antagonist. He wants to kill Kevin. And Kevin means something to Russell, our kid, and therefore we can understand the characters why they would not want our main antagonist to kill him. So even if you don't like them from a character perspective, they make sense from a plot perspective. And the whole thing with him, the main antagonist being Carl's childhood hero, actually did something for me because it told me that your heroes aren't always what you expect them to be. And I think that's a great lesson for kids.
You know what? I have to agree with you on that. That is true. I think it's a lesson that, adults have to learn from time to time. The people who you admire and look up to are not always what they seem to be. And sometimes there's even a dark element and you don't really ever know anybody, Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, that is maybe a good lesson to learn. But this movie just didn't do it for me. I just, every time it comes on, I just like run or tell them to turn it off, or I need to leave the room. I just don't like it. It does nothing for me.
And I couldn't disagree more, but whatever. Now, before we move on to this next one, I just want to say up front, from beginning to now, we have remained relatively civil about our enjoyment of these movies. The title of this is Movies That We Hate, but I don't think so far any of these movies are ones that we downright loathe, correct?
I don't like Men in Black all that much. And I haven't watched Kill Bill 2 except for one time. I didn't like it. So
I'm just trying to set up that the movie I'm about to discuss is a movie that I downright hate, and a lot of that has to do with my interactions with people who do like the movie. I came out of this movie thinking it was pretty okay, and my opinion of it has decreased further and further over time. And that movie is Inception, which is extremely critically and audiensely acclaimed. And if you like this movie and you understood what's going on, good for you.
Before you go on, I just have a question for you. Okay. Two of the movies that you don't like in this list are Leonardo DiCaprio films. Do you have something against Leonardo DiCaprio?
I do not have something against Leonardo DiCaprio. I have something against the movies he's in. I love Romeo and Juliet.
Oh, that's a great movie.
It's a great movie. We're going to have to talk about it when we get to the other movie, when we don't have a thing against them. But back to Inception. Inception, I did not understand what was happening in Inception. And I've been told, when I have told this to people, I have been told that either I was not smart enough to know what was going on, or that I wasn't paying attention enough, which I think is not fair, because I took notes the first time I watched this movie, which, side note, if I have to take notes while watching your movie to understand what is happening, I'm not going to enjoy your movie because I'm too busy taking notes on what's going on.
Okay, so let's step back a minute.
Okay.
I have not seen Inception. It's one of those movies that fell into a period when I hadn't been watching films. So what is this premise of Inception? I don't even know.
I don't want to screw this up because, I'm too stupid to understand the movie. So I'm going to just read word for word the synopsis I have here. Inception is a 2010 sci-fi action film written and directed by Christopher Nolan, who also produced the film with Emma Thomas, his wife. The film stars Leonardo DiCaprio as a professional thief who steals information by infiltrating subconsciouses of his targets. He is offered a chance to have his criminal history erased as payment for the implantation of another person's idea into a target's subconscious.
I don't even know what that means.
The movie is about dreams and dreams and dreams and dreams, and it can get confusing. And I'm just going to break down some of the things that I found confusing about this film. And it's not because I did not pay attention. I did my best to pay attention. So I'm going to just break down some of the things that I don't like, or things that I feel that the movie itself contradicts itself on. First off, the main character. I don't understand. This is a heist movie. You know how heist movies go. Hey, you are the special main character. We want you for this heist job. I don't know why they want the special main character for this heist job. By the way, I don't remember any of their names because they're like, I think his name is Cobb. They're like really weird. But I don't understand why they want him, because the first two jobs that we've seen him do in the movie before they established they want him for this job, he failed at. So I don't know why they want him. He's also established to have severe mental issues where he keeps incepting his wife who wants to kill people in dreams. I don't know why they want him when he has this issue. If they didn't know about it, then as soon as they figured it out,
So what is Inception? What is the whole premise?
I just read you the premise. I mean, no. It's a heist movie about supplanting. Okay, I'm going to try my best. Supplanting the idea to an energy giant to basically make his company not be a monopoly anymore inside of his mind, so this other energy company can have some ground and not be monopolists. I think.
Okay, so
it's been a while since I've seen
this film. He's supposed to go into somebody's dream and tell them, like an Elon Musk's kind of character, and say, hey, you shouldn't have this monopoly on electric cars, something like that?
Yeah, basically.
All right.
So that's the basic. But then we go into the level, because people inside of dreams can have their own dreams. And so we can go deeper and deeper and deeper inside of the dreams. And the reason how you get out of the dreams is basically either there's a timer, there's a kick, which is basically like me going, to wake you up. We'll get back to that. And I think those are the main two ways that of how to get out of a dream discussed. So they plan on having these people go into this dream of this man on a plane. We'll get back to that. And incept him. So I'm going to actually get to the plane right now. First off, we already established that basically something like this early in the movie can wake you up. If you are on a plane with turbulence, could wake you up.
Yeah.
So that kind of confused me. Another thing that kind of confused me is they say early on that how things should kick. So basically, how they said it, I'm stumbling over my words because this movie is so confusing to me. But how they wanted to initially get a kick out of the dream is they're going to have this van drive through this window, and that initial shock will wake everybody up. But they're in a different layer of the dream, so that didn't work. So basically, how they got to get it, they got to get back to the original layer of the dream, so that the second kick, when the van hits the water, can cause a reaction to make them get out of the dream. So when I just don't the thing, I'm just a basic point. My question is that when they're falling and you can see the bodies jostling around in the car. Why don't they get waken up after they hit the window? And you might want to ask, because I just remembered something more about this film. This film needs a giant wiki page to explain how dreams work. But hey, how are they gonna, if they're inside the dreams? How do they wouldn't it just be seconds before the car hits the window and then the hits the water? No, because when you go into deeper layers of dreams, it basically creates a time dilation. So in real life, that time becomes more and more. So basically, if you go into the third level of a dream, it can be up to 9 years. They say 10 in the movie. They didn't do the math right. It's about 9 years. And
I thought Twin Peaks: The Return was confusing. This sounds just as bad or worse.
Yeah, a lot of people love this movie. And good for them. Honestly, if you like this movie, good for you. If you understand what's happening, I am happy for you. Just please don't call me an idiot for not getting it, okay? That's all I'm asking.
Did you really take notes on this film?
I did. I took notes on this film. The first time I watched it, I got 10 minutes in and be like, okay, so I got it, because then they just started explaining it.
Is it like a big techno-babble type of film?
Kind of, yes. In the first beginnings of the movie, and then they use that technobabble later on, but then they change the rules up sometimes. It gets confusing.
So you hated the movie because you just didn't get it.
I didn't get it. I didn't understand what was happening, and I wasn't enjoying the movie because I was too busy taking notes on what the heck I thought was happening because of why, to actually pay attention to what was happening in the film. And that's just me, I guess.
So I don't know. You think I'd like it?
Do you like Twin Peaks season 3?
It confused me. Every episode I was just like, what did I just watch? I don't know.
I honestly can't tell you if you're gonna like this film or not. All I'm gonna say is, if things like this, if you are a very compartmentalized person like me, you are probably not gonna enjoy it. But I can't tell, because not everybody's brain is wired the way mine is. So I honestly don't know if you're going to like this movie or not. Apparently a lot of people did. So
that's a huge score. I don't remember it being that big in the theater, but maybe it was. I mean,
I was surprised it came out in 2010.
Yeah, it came out in 2010. I just, at this point in my life, I stopped going to movies as much. I used to, back in the day, I used to go to the movies every week and sometimes twice a week. And then it just got to the point in my life where I just didn't have time to do it anymore. And with kids and everything, I just, want to come home and go to bed, But, there was a movie about dreams back that was made back in the 80s.
I have no idea what you're
called Dreamscape, and they would go into people's dreams. But it was
were there
really
layers upon dreams upon dreams.
I don't think it was as twisted as this. I mean, a lot of people didn't like that film, but it was on cable all the time, so I kind of I liked it. I enjoyed it. It had Dennis Quaid in it, and they would like somehow go into other people's dreams to do things and to try to help people. But it was this sounds much more complicated.
It is complicated. I think even the people who like this movie would admit that it's complicated, because I'm not smart enough to understand the movie. But moving on, I don't want to talk about Inception anymore. So moving on to the first one of these that we both agree with, that we both really do not like.
And this is a James Cameron film.
James Cameron, we are so sorry. We don't mean, we have nothing against you, bro, but Avatar was awful.
Yeah, I did not like Avatar at all.
I want to make a statement first. The technology in this film and how it's innovative. It's brilliant. It's gorgeous. The movie itself, overall plot-wise, is pretty bad.
I think you had a better understanding of the plot than I actually did. So why don't you tell everybody? And if you haven't seen Avatar, which I'm sure there's people out there who haven't, even though there's a theme park, Disney Animal Kingdom has almost a whole section dedicated to Avatar, and one that we didn't see because it was so busy when we were there. We avoided it like the plague. But go ahead and tell us what the premise of Avatar is.
Okay, so the premise of Avatar is we are in the 22nd century, right? And Earth's resources have basically been completely run out. Okay. Sound familiar, Mom?
Yeah.
Okay. So basically what we have going on is they found this other place called Pandora with all these tall blue Smurf people. Mm-hmm. And what they're going to do is go and basically take the resources. And to scout it out, they basically create these expensive avatars for the humans to put themselves in so they can go look around the area and figure out what's going on, when they could just use drones or something, probably less expensive and a substantial less waste of government resources.
So I never really got this tech, okay? Because they're kind of in a comatose state, and then there's this artificial body.
Yes.
But it feels like a real body.
Yes.
It's not like a ghost.
That's correct.
Like because, and so they want to interact with these people. Why exactly?
To get the resources.
But couldn't they just go and like you said, use drones and not be as invasive?
But they have to have the
species?
movie.
So, but I mean, this is a kind of story that you see kind of on the sci-fi movie of the week. You've got the big bad
Ferngully. It's Ferngully with a budget.
Yeah, it's big bad corporation going into the pristine, beautiful forest like Ferngully or or Pandora, and wanting to take the resources. And unlike for Ferngully, though, in this one they want to commit genocide as well.
Mm-hmm, basically. So what we have is basically, tell me if you've seen this before. One of the people who go in, I'm going to call him because I don't remember the names of any characters in this film. White man goes in and realizes, oh no, I don't want to. I've learned with these people. I don't want to take their resources anymore. So he leads a revolution with them against evil white capitalist man who wants to steal the resources, and they win. And at the end of the movie, he dies in his soul. But oh, don't worry, the people of Pandora can go and incept him into his normal body, the avatar body, because they can do that even though they have no knowledge of technology. But for some reason, they can put the soul inside of basically a metal.
So what I started thinking of while we're talking about this is did you ever see Dances with Wolves with Kevin Costner?
No, I have not.
This is also it's not like a corporation, but you've got this guy who's he leaves the war. He's a deserter, and he ends up getting and becoming immersed in the Native American of that area, and he ends up becoming like one of them and adopting their culture. So when the government comes in, they have a revolution. Is this kind of
this is the movie,
sort of like Avatar kind of also, but but in the end, I think Kevin Costner ends up, he doesn't die. I think he ends up stands with Fist to Mary McDonnell, and it's like 3 hours long, almost as long as Avatar, or just about. So it sounds very, very similar. Anyway, I didn't like the movie. I thought it was it's beautiful but boring, and it's like
I don't know how it became the highest grossing movie of all time for a while.
Seen it before.
Understand, but basically that's it for Avatar.
Oh, you know what? They after long awaited, there's a sequel coming out.
I don't know what they're gonna do. They already did the whole plot that they wanted to do with the movie. Are they gonna steal a different plot structure? I don't know what else they're planning on doing. Like, I don't know what the movie's about. I have not seen anything. I just heard that it's happening. Is there another threat to Pandora? So
this is like the Way of the Water or something, and then I think they filmed it like there's like another sequel coming out back to back or something. But I mean, it's been so long. I mean, look, let's see what Avatar was 2009. Okay, so we're talking what 10, 12 years ago. I mean, is anybody still going to be interested in what's going on in Pandora? I guess we'll find out in December. Oh, hey, Terry.
Terry, sorry it took us a while. For some reason, the thing was being weird. But Avatar has to be in one of my top 5 worst movies ever.
Wow.
And I've watched some awful films of these. I don't know about top 5 worst.
But hey,
I'm glad that we agree. But I think that this is a less unpopular opinion, I guess. Because I think in the recent years, there's been a lot of questioning of Avatar as a movie, and there was one from its initial release.
I liked the version on Robot Chicken where they did it with the Smurfs.
That's why I called them giant Smurfs.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people have, and it's just kind of funny. But
we've been putting it off for long enough, Mom. Are you ready to get murdered?
Well, let's go to this is the last film, and one that we both agreed. In fact, when we started to talk about this list, this is the first film I think we actually discussed.
It is. And we actually questioned on whether or not we were going to put it on here because, like I said, we do not want to die.
But yes.
But
1940s Disney Fantasia.
Fantasia is a movie that we have both agreed is boring.
It's like overhyped. So let's talk a little bit about Fantasia.
Look at these scores. Look at these scores.
Oh my goodness.
The 83% is honestly lower than I was expecting, but we'll get into that. People adore this movie. Some people are like top 3 Disney movies of all time. Sometimes top 100 films of all times. They put Fantasia. So this is kind of a controversial choice, but we're going to try to explain the best we can.
Okay, so here's what information we have on Fantasia. It was it came out in 1940. It's an animated musical anthology film, and it's basically it's got 8 animated segments put together with classical music, and 7 of the songs were performed by the Philadelphia Orchestra. The concept came out in 1938, so it took them a couple of years to work on it, and I just don't get it. I never liked it as a child. I didn't like it when it came out again in 2000 when it was re-released. I just find it incredibly boring, and I'm sorry. I love classical music, but I did not like this film at all.
Let's just be clear real quick here. We do not hate The Sorcerer's Apprentice. We both agree that this is the best part of the film.
And ironically, I found this out while doing research on Fantasia. The Sorcerer's Apprentice wasn't even originally going to be in this film. It was a separate short that they made as a comeback for Mickey Mouse. It was going to be an elaborate, silly symphony cartoon. And what happened was it became like it was really expensive for them to make, and they realized they wouldn't make the money back as a short. So they decided to take this clip and put it into Fantasia. And when you think of Fantasia, the first thing you think about is the Sorcerer's Apprentice.
It's in the poster.
Yeah, the Sorcerer's Apprentice, which is, basically when you forget that there's all these other segments of the film, and you just think it's just about, Disney and, Mickey Mouse in a sorcerer's hat. And,
I get why people like this film. It's a marvel of animation and music together. It's beautiful. It's just not for me. I am a very plot character person, so just putting colors and music on screen really does not do it for me at all.
Yeah, I just, I don't know. I think kids like it for the Mickey Mouse part. If you asked around people today, I don't think that they could tell you what the other segments are or what music was in it, unless you're like a hardcore Disney fan. So that's why we picked Fantasia, and basically as the first film of these, very popular films. All these films were very popular for their time, and we just don't like them. It's just not something that's for us. And we wanted to,
talk about it.
Yeah, and see if we had any, buddy who would agree or disagree with us. And I'm glad Terry was there to actually agree with us on that Avatar. I don't even, yes, it was a huge movie, but to build a theme park around the Pandora, every time I think of Pandora, I think of the jewelry, and I'm like thinking, did they decide to use that, or was it because of Pandora's box? Anyway, I started hearing more about Pandora jewelry when the movie came out, and so I think that I don't think they have anything to do with each other, but for some reason now they're kind of hand in hand. It's kind of confusing to me, but so that's it.
Pretty much it. We did discuss earlier that this is probably going to be a shorter-ish show, but we just wanted to get our opinions out there and hopefully not get murdered.
So we're thank you all for joining us today, and hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time.